The first thing Marcus Hale noticed was the umbrella. That wasn't there. It was a Wednesday in October, a little past 8 on the kind of evening that turns the streets of Cincinnati into something a painter might study. The rain came sideways off the Ohio River, the kind that soaks through a coat before you've decided whether to stop. He'd left the foundation dinner early. The speeches had gone long, and the salmon had gone cold, and he was taking a long way back to the car, because sometimes a man needs 10 minutes of wet pavement to remember he's still made of something. He almost didn't see her. She was standing at the corner of 5th and Sycamore with a bucket of flowers in her hands. Carnations, mostly. The kind they sell at grocery store checkouts for $5 a bunch. She held them the way a child holds something she's been trusted with, both hands careful, close to the chest. She had a white cane folded under one arm and a laminated sign hanging from a piece of twine around her neck. The laminate was fogged with rain. Whatever the sign said, Marcus couldn't read it from the curb. She could have been older than 9. He almost kept walking. Plenty of men would have. He'd watched them do it his whole career. Executives and attorneys, and men who wrote checks to children's charities at dinner and then passed the actual child on the sidewalk without breaking stride. Marcus had been one of those men for a long time. Not proudly, just honestly. He turned back. She heard his footsteps slow and turned her head toward the sound with the precision of someone who had long since stopped expecting the world to announce itself. "Hi," he said. "Just that." She tilted her head. "Are you going to buy something, or are you just stopping to feel better about yourself?" Her voice was flat, not rude, exact. He almost laughed, which surprised him. "What have you got?" "Carnations are $2. Roses are $5. I've got 1 lily left. That's $7. She shifted the bucket in her hands. "I don't give change smaller than $1, because I can't see what I'm handing you." "That's fair," Marcus said. He bought the lily. She counted his 10 by feel, tucking each bill separately into a small zippered pouch on a lanyard under her jacket. A system someone had taught her. Not improvised, practiced. "What's your name?" A pause. That meant she was deciding something. "Nadia." "How long have you been out here, Nadia?" "Since 5. "Does someone know you're out here?" The longest pause. Long enough for a cab to pass and spray a fine mist across the curb between them. "My grandma knows," she said finally. "She's a home." He heard what wasn't in the sentence. He'd spent enough years listening to grant applications to know the shape of what people left out. "Is your grandma all right?" Nadia's fingers found a handle of the white cane and turned it once in her palm. "She's not good," she said, quiet and particular, the way a child says a true thing she has not decided to make anyone else carry yet. Marcus took his phone from his pocket and dialed the only number that mattered in a moment like this. Not his assistant, not his driver. He dialed 911 the way a person dials when the call is not dramatic, just necessary. "There's a child on the corner of 5th and Sycamore," he said, 9 years old, visually impaired, selling flowers alone in the rain. "Her grandmother is at home and may need welfare check. I'm staying with her." He hung up and put the phone away. "Who did you call?" Nadia asked. "Someone to check on your grandma." A long pause. "Not police?" "Medics first." She turned the cane again. Then, slowly, she set the flower bucket down on the wet concrete and sat beside it on the curb with the posture of someone who had been standing for 3 hours and was finally allowed to stop. Marcus sat down next to her, in his dinner jacket, on the sidewalk, in the rain. She didn't say anything about it. He didn't explain it. The siren arrived 11 minutes later, from the direction of the river. The emergency room of Cincinnati Children's had the kind of quiet that is not actually quiet, monitors and rolling carts and the soft, persistent hum of a building that never sleeps. Nadia sat on the edge of the exam bed with her cane across her knees and the flower bucket wedged between her feet, like she wasn't planning to let anyone take it until she decided they could be trusted. Marcus stood in the doorway where they'd told him to stand. A doctor came to the curtain. Late 40s, dark skin, the particular stillness of someone who had spent 20 years deciding what urgency required. "I'm Dr. Chun," she said, crouching until she was at Nadia's level. I'm going to tell you everything before I do it. Okay. Nadia's fingers found the lip of the flower bucket. First, I'm going to listen to your chest. The thing I use is called a stethoscope. It's a little cold. I'll warm it up on my sleeve first. Dr. Chin did it immediately. Sleeve, metal disc, breath. See? Okay, now. The girl's shoulders dropped a quarter inch. It was the first piece of trust Marcus had seen from her, and it nearly undid him. The social worker arrived shortly after, a woman named Patricia. Sensible coat, 20 years of this work in her eyes. She crouched like Dr. Chin had. She didn't reach for a clipboard immediately. You're not in trouble, Patricia said. I didn't say I was, Nadia said. I know. Patricia smiled the kind of smile that earns itself. I just say it first. People usually want to hear it. The girl considered this. What about my grandma? There's someone with her right now. She's being taken care of. You did the right thing staying with the flowers. She would have been worried if you'd left them. Marcus watched Nadia receive that sentence like a hand reaching through a screen door. Careful, partial, necessary. A nurse pulled Marcus into the hall. She was not unkind. She was clear. You're not family. We're grateful you stopped, but we have a process. I understand, Marcus said. You can go. We have your information. He looked past her into the room. Nadia sat upright on the bed, cane across her knees, flower bucket between her feet, face pointed toward the door. Not because she could see it, because a child who has learned to pay attention to exits knows where they are. He thought of his own daughter, grown now, living in Portland, who used to say, "You're not here even when you're in a room, Dad," who had stopped saying it eventually. That was the worst part. He looked back at the nurse. I'm not taking her. I'm not claiming anything. But if she hears those footsteps in the hall tonight, and I'm not one of them, she'll learn one more thing about adults that I don't want her to learn. Rose O'Yelleran was 71. She had raised 3 grandchildren after her daughter's accident. Nadia was the youngest. Rose had macular degeneration in both eyes and a hip that had been scheduled for replacement twice and rescheduled twice because something more urgent had kept arriving. The welfare officer, a quiet man named Dev, was noting things down in a way that didn't feel like being assessed. She sold the flowers herself, Rose said. Her voice was steady. I taught her the system, which bills how to count. She wanted to learn. Her hand moved on the arm of the chair. I can't stand on that corner anymore, but I can teach. Dev set his pen down. Ms. O'Yelleran, he said carefully, when did you last see a doctor about the hip? Rose's chin came up. When I could afford it. He wrote something down. Then he looked at the window, where the rain had softened to drizzle. A man stopped for her last night. He's still at the hospital. Rose said nothing for a long time. Then what kind of man? The kind who sat in a hard chair all night. She folded her hands in her lap. Tell me about this man. At 11:15, Marcus went to the doorway again. Nadia's head came up at the sound of him. They found your grandma, he said. She's okay. They're helping her this morning. Someone's going to bring her to see you this afternoon. Nadia's grip on the bucket handle shifted. What kind of helping? Her hip and the other things. The medicine. Yes. She was quiet. Her fingers found the top of the white cane and ran along it, end to end, the way she touched things she needed to be certain of. Did you pay for it? Some people did. Yes. Will we owe you? Marcus came to the doorway edge. No further. Still out. No. There's a word for what this is. It's called support. Not a loan. Not a favor you pay back. Just people doing what they should have set up so it was easier. Nadia considered that with the seriousness she brought to everything. My grandma says be careful when something is free. Your grandma is right. This isn't free. It comes from money people put in because they wanted this to exist. Your grandma put herself into that bucket of flowers for you. People put money into a fund for situations like hers. It goes around. A very long pause. Okay, Nadia said. Just that. She picked up one carnation from a bucket. She held it out in the direction of his voice. He came in 3 steps, took it with both hands. Thank you, she said, for not keeping walking. He held the carnation. He looked at this girl who had stood in the rain for 3 hours and counted bills by feel and built a system for it, and who had asked him the moment she met him whether he was stopping for her sake or his own. He had asked himself the same question in the parking lot at midnight. He thought the answer, by now, was both, and that the honest version of both was not the worst place to start. "I'm glad I didn't," he said. By spring, Rose's hip surgery had gone well, and she was walking the corner again, slowly, with a cane of her own. Nadia was at the school for the visually impaired on Tuesdays and Thursdays, learning orientation and mobility from Evelyn, who turned out to be someone who believed children could do difficult things if someone showed them how. The flower bucket was still in use on Friday evenings, a choice Nadia had made herself when she was asked. Marcus attended one parent meeting at the school in February. He sat at the back. He was introduced to Evelyn as a family supporter. That was the right word. On a Saturday in April, the city held a community resource fair for families with disabled members or caregivers. Folding chairs in uneven rows, donated cookies in a plastic clamshell, a sign-up sheet for a new low-vision support fund. Marcus stood against the wall the way he always stood now. Not close. Available. Rose was there, hip held straight, her own cane quiet at her side. She found him at the coffee table. "Mr. Hale," she said. "Ms. O'Yelleran." She had the directness of a woman who had spent 70 years deciding which things were worth saying and which were not. "Thank you," she said, "for not keeping walking." He nodded once. He didn't try to make it smaller or larger than it was. "Thank you for teaching her to count the bills," he said. She had a whole system. Rose's face shifted in a way that was not quite a smile. She makes systems for everything. Always has. They stood with their coffee for a moment in the way that people stand when enough has already been said. At the end of the fair, Nadia found him by the exit. She was wearing a green jacket that fit this time. She had the white cane in one hand and something small in the other. She held it out toward his voice. It was a carnation, a little crumpled at one edge, still white. "From this week's bucket," she said. "I save you one." He took it with both hands. "Nadia," he said, "do you want to keep in touch? Or do you want some space? Your grandma can let me know." She considered it with her whole face, the way she considered everything. Seriously, the way a person considers a contract. "You can come to the corner sometime," she said. "If it's raining, you should still come. We're out in the rain." That's the whole agreement. He understood. He said, "I'll be there." That evening, Marcus Hale set a single white carnation in a glass of water on his kitchen windowsill. He didn't photograph it. He didn't explain it to anyone. He stood in his kitchen for a long moment, looking at it in the lamplight. He thought about a little girl counting bills by feeling the rain, about the precision of a system built by two people who needed it to work, about his own daughter, who was not 9 anymore, who had stopped waiting for him to show up years ago, who might or might not be ready to hear from him, but who deserved for him to try. He picked up his phone. He didn't text his assistant. He called his daughter. She answered on the third ring. He said, "Hi, is this a bad time?" She said, "It's kind of late, Dad." He said, "I know. I just wanted to call." A pause, the kind where a person is deciding something. "Okay," she said. "What's going on?" He leaned against the kitchen counter and looked at the carnation in the window. "I stopped for someone," he said, "and I want to tell you about it." A month later, on a warm Friday evening, the corner 5th and Sycamore had 2 people standing on it. Rose, steady with her cane. Nadia, the bucket on the pavement. Carnations bright in the last of the afternoon light. A man in a gray coat came around the corner from the parking garage on Sycamore. Nadia's had turned at the sound of his walk. She knew it by now. "You came," she said. "I said I would." He stood on the corner in the evening light. Cars passing, people walking, the city doing what it does. "We've got carnations," Nadia said, "and 1 rose left. And I know it's going to rain by 6 because I can smell it." "What does rain smell like?" he asked. She turned her face toward him with the expression she used when she had decided a question was worth taking seriously. "Like the street is getting ready to say something," she said. He bought the rose. He walked back to his car in the light before the rain. Behind him, the bucket brightened on the curb, and a girl with a white cane counted what she'd earned, and her grandmother watched the sky. And on a corner in Cincinnati, two people stood in the last dry moment before the rain, doing what they had both decided, without drama, without ceremony. They were going to keep on doing, showing up. And that's where our story comes to an end. Before we go, remember this story is a work of fiction created for storytelling, reflection, and entertainment. But even fictional stories can leave something real behind. Maybe there's one touched a part of your heart that still believes one quiet act of presence, not rescue, just presence, can change the shape of a life. Maybe it reminded you of someone who turned back when they didn't have to. Tell us in the comments what moment stayed with you the most. If this story moved you, please give a like. Share it with someone who needs a little hope tonight. And subscribe so we can keep bringing you stories that restore faith in people. The lesson here is simple. You don't have to fix everything. You don't have to know what comes next. Sometimes you just have to stop, sit down on the wet curb, and stay long enough for someone to learn that the world still has people in it who turn back. Thank you for spending this time with us. Stay kind, stay warm, and we'll see you in the next one.